Welcome to the show, Jim Shockey.
Yeah, thanks for having me. I'm excited.
So the reason why you're so notoriously popular in your community is you like to black rifle powder. Am I right? Black rifle hunt?
Yeah, black powder.
Excuse me. Yes, black powder.
Like Davy Crockett used, only a little bit modernized. That's how I made my name in our industry. But I use archery just as much, and bow and arrow or rifle as well.
Right. What do you enjoy really, moving through the bush with? Do you enjoy a compound bow? Do you enjoy the rifle muzzle style movement? What do you like to there? What gets snagged?
The ultimate hunt is archery. Mm-hmm. When you've got a stick and a string and a pointy arrow, I mean, that's you have to be close. So and as a hunter, if we're talking about hunting, that's what you want to do, is get as close as possible, get that primal feeling of there's your quarry, and I'll use this probably often, touch your ancestral soul by being able to get that close to the animal. So archery is my, that's the ultimate in hunting, but it's also very difficult, takes time.
You feel like you're one with the animals that you're stalking and about to partake of and share. I'm sure you share the food with others, right?
Oh, of course, yeah. We are all part of nature, regardless of whether we live in downtown New York City up on a penthouse. If we think we don't have an environmental footprint because we're vegan, give me a break.
Yeah, right.
Of course, we're all part of nature. So yeah, when you're in the wildlands, you're as close as you can be. Mm-hmm. What we were and hopefully what we will be in the future.
Well, honestly, to that point, someone who myself, I really don't eat a lot of red meat at all, and I'll take some chicken here and there, but I would say that hunting it the way that you and others that go out there, the Cameron Haynes, yourselves of the world that go out and stalk these, and then butcher it. A lot of self-butcher. I don't know if you self-butcher or, have, of course. I just feel that there's a little bit difference of what's in the supermarket versus what you're putting on your plate, right? Why do I have to eat what's there? Why is somebody forcing me to eat that wrapped up food, versus not? And I think a vegan is trying to do something right. And I think that the person hunting the animal that is doing something right. So everybody's going to leave a footprint. It's just, at least somebody's trying to do something right.
Yeah. I agree. And they're standing for something.
Right.
I mean, I've got lots of friends that are vegans, and I think it's wonderful, but they also recognize that their soybean fields are monocultures that took away habitat for wildlife. The reality is there's 8 billion of us in this world, and there's not enough in the way of resources. So we have to have industrial farming to feed the people that live in the cities. Not everybody can go and do what I do.
No.
I mean, it's not possible. Once we turned into an agrarian culture back 10,000 years ago, whatever anybody believes,
cement jungles,
then it's, we just started multiplying. And so we have to have cows and sheep and goats and pigs, and there has to be industrial farming, regardless of how people may or may not agree with the methods of raising those animals. But the reality is, not everybody can be a vegan. Not everybody can be a hunter and hunter-gatherer.
Correct.
Bring food home. So that's why we have the wrapped-up packages, and thank goodness for the ranchers out there and the farmers. Otherwise, those people in the city wouldn't have anything to eat.
I just had a conversation with a friend, Kyle Bucket, yesterday. He's a former Navy SEAL, and I had him on the show, and we were talking about that, and he was saying, he just moved to Texas, and for the first time, he just have to steer with his buddy out there. So he comes from the city where it's never an option to have your fridge full of just your own food right there. He gets to Texas and it's like, hey, you want to half this with me? And it's like, your food, here it is.
Yeah. Sort of aside to that, I came from the other side of the spectrum where I grew up. I grew up in a trailer park out in Saskatchewan.
Same.
And if my dad didn't get his moose every fall, we didn't eat meat in the winter.
Sure.
It was macaroni for us. And I didn't realize you could buy half a cow until I was in high school. And that's what I found out some of the other people did. When they didn't, if your dad doesn't get a moose, you just go buy meat. It just, but so I come from the exact opposite spectrum, but just as, incredulous that you could buy half.
Your dad's like, I'm not taking a knee. I'm getting that moose. I am not taking a knee. No, you won't. I have never taken a knee, and you won't either. But getting something like that, there's a I want to say holistic way of approach to the animal becoming your food is okay, right? If you're doing it out of that respect.
It's okay for everybody.
Yeah.
I tolerate. For me, I think tolerance is the most important word going forward in this world. With 8 billion of us, we're going to have to understand that right and wrong is a cultural perspective. We all know what is right and what is wrong. We know that. I mean, you know that inside you.
Yes.
But cultural perspective is what's up. I live this way. I live this way. You got to agree with me, and I don't. I disagree with you, and I'm tolerant, but I don't agree with you. We have to actually be tolerant. So I don't have a problem with how people eat and survive and what they believe in, and I think it's great. We're gonna have to start getting along here at some point. Well, there's nowhere else to go.
No, because that book right here, the Call Me Hunter book, it preys on your psyche of you being out on these hunts and creating these thoughts. I have to feel like, that are coming into this book. Am I kind of hitting on that? Like you're out there and things, it's just you and no internet and you're like coming up with these ideas. Is that how this came to pass?
Yeah. I mean, honestly, I spent, when you're sitting on a mountain in Kyrgyzstan somewhere and you're waiting for hours and hours, you have time to center your focus, I guess. And I wanted to tell this story that started when I was 10 years old. There's a lot of this book is autobiographical. So that's, in a way, what you're asking is, did some of these things happen, or did you make them up, or were they, did they just come out of thin air?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, I spent the time on those mountains figuring out a way to tell this story in a novel format. Autobiographical writing is pretty easy. It's just, to me, it's not challenging, but in a novel form, that's challenging. So I spent a lot of time out in the mountains and the situations I was in, experiences, that is all incorporated into this book. That's this novel. That's why I wrote it, was to make it, to blur the lines of reality and fiction. What is real? Google it. Go ahead.
Yeah. You say that. You say it. It says challenge
right
me.
Up front. Yeah, right up. Go figure out what's real and what's. I defy anybody to find things in there that aren't true. I mean, they're good luck.
Let me read this real quick. It says here on the back of your book that I got. I'm going to read this little blurb about you. It says Jim Shockey is a Canadian writer. Just so my audience understands what a little bit of your background is. Canadian writer, worldwide adventurer, wilderness outfitter, television producer, and host. I mean, you got a whole Swiss Army knife of weaponry. Where's the toothpick? It's right here. Here you go. You probably got one in that hat band or something.
Yeah. I've lived 100 miles an hour since I left home at 17, and I've been on the road ever since.
What happened at 17? Where'd you go at 17?
I went to university. I grew up in Saskatchewan, and I had a little falling out with my mother, so I went to my dad and I said, "Look, either Mom goes or I'm leaving you." And that was kind of, he made the decision for me in a lot of ways. So I left with $300 in my pocket. I was a good athlete, so I actually called up the university, the coach of the swim team, and said, "Hey, I'm thinking about coming out there. The no entrance exams, literally school was starting in about 3 days." And he said, "I'll get you on the team with a scholarship." So I went out there with my $300 and applied for every bursary and scholarship I could. I was an IBM scholarship winner for the first 2 years. IBM.
Yeah, IBM. Made a fruit. They made this fruit company.
Yeah, it was that what sport? I had no idea computer language, but I got the IBM scholarship, as well as my sports scholarship to help pay my way. And I just figured out a way to live. All those different things when you're saying them, I'm going, is probably because I was unemployable. That's why I had to do so many different things in my life and figure it out. But I also, harkening back to my childhood, I had to listen to my mom and dad talk every dinner about whether dad would get laid off, whether we'd have the money when we finally did buy a house, whether we could afford the mortgage or whether we'd lose the house. I mean, this is, as a 10-year-old, I'm listening to this stuff and I said, never, ever will I live like that. You get one life.
Yeah.
And I live my life on my terms, not with someone else standing over me, dictating, my happiness, my joy. It's one life. Everybody gets one life. And that's also what Call Me Hunter is about. Is you get one life, so live it, because there's no redos as far as we know.
No, live it to the fullest. Get yourself on the cover. What is that? Outdoor Life over your shoulder right there? Is that what I'm seeing? Yeah, right over there. Yeah. Get yourself an author deal and Call Me Hunter. And I like to watch Arnold Schwarzenegger's documentary lately that he put out, and he says, I wanted to be on the cover of Hercules. And so I just focused on how to be him, the guy that was Hercules on the cover of Hercules, the movie, when he was 16 years old in Austria. Sure. And he's like, what does he do? How do I get on the cover? And then he just focused and focused and focused and focused and just lifted and lifted and never was happy with himself, even though we were happy with him.
Yeah, that was an interesting documentary. I love the guy. I do. Documentary. He just was a guy who lived his life. He truly lived his life, and he set goals for himself, and he's still setting goals. I mean, Governor of California, who in a million years would have thought that? He thought it because he set it as a goal. And I'm sitting here right now in our Hand-to-Man Museum on Vancouver Island. It's a 17,000 square foot facility that I envisioned when I was 10 years old. I was going to write a novel, and I was going to do this museum, this Hand-to-Man Museum. And that's a goal that has come to fruition, but it took me another 55 years, so more than half a century of focusing on that goal to realize it. And Arnold Schwarzenegger, I'm not comparing him with me, other than I think at one point I got my calves to be half as big as so that's a funny true story. I was caught in a cabin. We got blizzarded out in northern British Columbia. And in that cabin, it was like an old trapper's cabin. There was one magazine, and we were trapped there for almost 2 weeks. And it was a muscle magazine. I don't know why the trapper had a muscle magazine, but they had all the measurements in that magazine of all these bodybuilders. And the only one that I beat on any measurement, I'm not a little guy. I'm like 6'3" and weigh 220. The only measurement that I beat any of those muscle people on was my calves. I beat the one woman bodybuilder. And that was it. Those guys are freaks. So it's, like I said, I will never compare myself to Arnold, but I do really respect the way he set his life, set goals for himself and attain those goals. If you don't, I'll put it another way, people come in our museum and they see, there's some of my history on the walls. It's not about me at all, but there's pictures and they think, wow, you've lived this amazing life and you've done this. And I say, well, if you drive in one direction for half a century and don't take any side roads, you end up somewhere. And this is where I've ended up because I did the same thing, different goals than Arnold. Obviously, you can tell that. But
up here, though, you could have it up here. You could totally have mental toughness.
Sure. Yeah. And there's things that are, I had choices in my life all the way along, those side roads.
Oh, so many side roads.
You want to have $100 million, $200 million.
Yeah.
That's just, you have to take this road. Well, it's there, but that's not my goal. We did well. It was never my goal to waste my life.
Living your life is your goal.
Yeah. Live experience.
Yeah, same.